Our current immigration system is a disaster. What we have now is de facto amnesty. There's no easy fix, but there is a better way. Billions in new border security funding, toughest enforcement measures in history. No food stamps, no welfare, no Obamacare. They'll have to wait 13 years, they're gonna have to pay fines, they're gonna have to learn English, they're gonna have to work, they're gonna have to wait in the back of the line. It's not ideal.
Good morning. Welcome to the News Hub. I'm Rolf Winkler. Florida Senator Marco Rubio is likely prepping a 2016 run for president. But first, he needs to help the Republican Party sell immigration reform to itself. Wall Street Journal's Neil King was first to get that ad, which you just saw, which is expected to start running tonight on Fox. And he's got details about the significant pile of cash being spent to air it. Neil, good morning.
Good morning, Rolf. How are you?
I'm good. So how much is being spent?
So this is the American Action Network, which is a conservative advocacy group. They're going to spend $300,000 over the next week or so using that ad on Fox, very much going after conservative viewers with an interesting message. You just saw the ad. Using Rubio, and this was a press conference that he gave in Las Vegas a little while ago, making all the kind of hardcore, stronger points about what this bill would do on the enforcement side, that being the side where conservatives are most skittish.
300,000, we should be clear, is a large amount for a non-election year.
Yeah, it's a pretty big amount right now, and I think pretty much the biggest amount that anybody has come out with so far on this immigration fight, which of course is really just starting in earnest now.
And there actually are a lot of deep-pocketed Republicans you can see sort of fighting almost for the soul of the party with the conservative base here that are promoting immigration reform?
Well, the interesting thing is it's not just Republicans. You're seeing people of all stripes, a lot of Silicon Valley money starting to flow into this. Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. They all have their own interests too, not just because they want to fix the immigration system, but they very much want a guest worker program that will allow for more workers to come in from outside of the United States for the tech sector. So they've been putting a fair bit of money into some ads to help shore up people like Lindsey Graham, a Republican, or Mark Begich in Alaska, a Democrat, both of whom are facing re-election next year. And they're using some sort of interesting ad techniques of their own to help bolster their chances.
Tell us about polling data that we've done recently. The findings are pretty interesting.
Yeah, the interesting thing, when it comes to Republicans, self-described Republicans, if you just tell them, are you for a pathway to citizenship, for a bill that would provide a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million or so people in the United States illegally, it's just barely a majority say, yeah, they would be fine with that. If you then explain, are you fine with, or would you support a pathway after all these various hoops that they would jump through and that would take a long time, the sort of things that they made sure that Marco Rubio pointed out in that ad, the number jumps up to about 73%. So that's a huge number of conservatives who support that measure as long as they understand how onerous the pathway would be.
And you mentioned Mark Begich, an Alaska senator. He's one of there are a number of Republican senators who are taking a bit of a risk supporting immigration reform, and they are also there are ads being run in support of them to sort of deflect any blowback they may be getting. Let's show one of these ads.
Alaskans say it with pride. North to the future. Words Senator Mark Begich never forgets. That's why Begich is fighting for Alaska's economic future by working to open ANWR to drilling and investing in the Alaska natural gas pipeline.
Those opposed, I mean, what's their response when you point out that you're getting more support, the polling data that you mentioned, that there is support inside the Republican Party for some of these reforms? What do opponents say in response?
It's very much the dynamic that's going on now, particularly within the Republican Party, where there are a lot of House members in particular who represent districts that aren't necessarily all that representative, maybe even of the Republican Party when you poll nationally like this. So they're living in a different environment, somewhat different strains going on there, and they're playing in a way to a different constituency, also with a different concern that they have about opening themselves up to a possible primary challenger from within their own party who's going to take a more kind of hardline view, if they were to actually anyway, leaving themselves vulnerable on that side. And that's very much the dynamic that the Republicans are having to deal with now, particularly on the House. And there's a lot of skepticism about how well this measure that's now been put forward in the Senate could fare in the House.
Just lastly, Neil, what are the chances we get immigration reform this year?
You know, there's a lot of people that are optimistic that this can happen. That said, the dynamic is not wildly different from where it was in 2007 when it all fell apart. The one real difference is that senior people within the Republican Party, people like Marco Rubio and a lot of other folks of that caliber are looking back at the election saying, wow, you know, we need to change our posture or we could have real troubles as a party. I think the determining factor is going to be whether that line of thinking holds out within the party and moves enough of the votes, particularly in the House.
Okay.
So it's better than 2007. We don't know how much better.
Okay, Neil King, thanks so much for joining us from Washington this morning.
Take care, all.